Right now, someone is wiping their feet on you, masking it as an innocent joke. They throw out cutting remarks, devalue your achievements, and watch with interest as you boil over. Do you know why? Because they are sure that you will swallow it and do nothing. They think you're soft. They think it's easy to get you upset, forcing you to justify yourself or lose your temper. And every time your voice trembles and resentment appears on your face, you give them control over your psyche. You become a puppet in someone else's game, where the rules are not written by you. But you clicked on this video for one reason. A shift has already taken place inside you. You're not here to complain about the injustice of the world or cry about how cruel people are. You're here because you've made a decision. The old version of you, vulnerable, emotional, reacting to every attack, dies today. I'm going to give you the tools that people with the highest emotional intelligence use. This isn't about trite advice like, just ignore it. This is about the art of complete psychological invulnerability. By the end of this video, you'll learn to meet disrespect with such icy calm that it will scare off anyone who tries to hurt you. Sit back and relax. Turn off your notifications. The lesson is about to begin. Technique number 1. Here's the main paradox. Right now, those who wipe their feet on you have an absolute cheat code to your psyche. They may not even be geniuses at manipulation, but they see right through you. Let's turn to science. A pioneer in the study of emotions, Dr. Paul Ekman, has proven one frightening thing. There are 43 muscles in our face, and they are capable of producing more than 10,000 micro-expressions. And you know what the problem is? You don't control them. It's pure evolutionary biology. Imagine this. Someone makes a toxic joke at a meeting or at the dinner table, trying to humiliate you. You may think you're keeping a straight face, but what do they see? They see your jaw twitch for a millisecond. They see you look away, how your pupils dilated sharply from the adrenaline rush and your breathing became shallow. Your biology is literally screaming, "You hurt me! I'm in pain!" For someone who doesn't respect you, your micro-reaction is pure dopamine. You are feeding their ego with your own hands. You become their emotional smorgasbord. And as long as you react, you remain the perfect victim. In dark psychology, there is a cruel but ironclad rule. Those whose emotions can be read become controllable. Predictability is your prison. So how do you get out of it? Think of classic Renaissance portraits. Think of the heroes in the paintings of the Renaissance masters. They are surrounded by darkness. Harsh light falls on them. But what do their faces express? Absolute, almost frightening calm. There is no fussiness in them. No pathetic desire to please or justify themselves. They rise above the situation. From this day forward, you will adopt this aesthetic. In clinical practice, working with psychopaths and narcissists, this is called the grey stone method. Please understand me correctly. This does not mean pouting and remaining silent in offense. Offended silence is also a reaction. A childish cry of, "Pay attention to me." To become a grey stone means to become absolutely, impenetrably, frighteningly uninteresting. You turn off the transmission of emotions. You become a monolith. The next time someone tries to hurt you, I want you to turn on this mode. Take a breath. Turn off your facial expressions. Relax your shoulders. Look at this person not as a threat, but as a biologist looks at a busy, strange insect in a jar, with light, cold, detached curiosity. Do you know what will happen in their head at that moment? Each of us has mirror neurons. They were created by evolution to read feedback. When an aggressor strikes, their brain waits for a surge of your pain to confirm their status. But suddenly, their radar encounters a vacuum, a blank wall. People are terrified of emptiness. When they can't read you, their own nervous system throws a critical error. They don't understand. Did you not get the joke? Are you preparing a counterattack? Do you despise them? Because of this glitch, they start to fuss. They start to stumble, stutter, and laugh nervously, trying to fill the vacuum you have created. They lose confidence because you have disrupted their usual algorithm. No one, not even the most sophisticated player, can defeat someone who does not reveal their weaknesses. Your unpredictability is your most ideal armor. Put it on. Let's move on. Technique number 2. Here we will examine the most fatal mistake that 99% of people make when faced with open disrespect. This mistake is speed. Notice how, as soon as someone throws a poisonous barb your way, devalues your work, or tries to publicly humiliate you, what do? You react instantly. You flare up, start frantically justifying yourself, launch into a verbal counterattack, or, even worse, laugh nervously, trying to turn everything into a joke. And in that very second, you hand them your most destructive trump card. You give them time. Let's take a look inside your head. Renowned psychologist Daniel Goleman called this phenomenon amygdala hijacking. The amygdala, or almond-shaped body, is your internal primitive threat scanner. When you are insulted, the amygdala sounds the alarm. It literally takes control and shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the very part of the brain that makes you human, that is responsible for logic, cold calculation, and strategy. All the blood rushes to your muscles. The animalistic fight or flight mode kicks in. At that moment, you literally become stupid before your very eyes and act on the raw instincts of a cornered animal. And you know what's most interesting? Neurobiologists have proven that it takes about 6 seconds for the prefrontal cortex to kick back into gear and restore your intelligence. Just 6 damn seconds. That's why your second tool is the art of the predatory pause. When someone tries to trample you or provoke you, your main task is not to jump into the fray. Don't try to save an awkward situation. Don't hit back. Take a slow, unnoticeable breath and remain silent. Wait out those 6 seconds. Let your brain reboot while your aggressor sweats in anticipation of your reaction. Take a look at Caravaggio's paintings. Their magic lies in the sharp transition from absorbing darkness to blinding light. When people plot against you or challenge you, you are the darkness. You remain in the shadows. You don't make any unnecessary movements. You let them step into that harsh, merciless light. Don't stop the show. Let them talk. Let them revel in their imagined power. You have no idea how much people are frightened by the absence of resistance. They hit with all their might, and the wall didn't collapse. It didn't even shake. Do you know how heavy and nauseating the silence is after an insult that goes unanswered? Let your opponent drown in it. Don't help him out. When you pause, they start to panic. They become physically uncomfortable. To fill this ringing void, They start to fuss, say unnecessary words, try to reduce everything to the phrase, "I was just joking," or, conversely, overreact with aggression. They themselves, with their own hands, bring out all their inner rot, insecurity, and complexes, exposing them to everyone present. An amateur chess player wants to attack on the second move. He is aggressive because he is weak. A grandmaster waits 30 moves. He simply watches as his opponent traps himself, enthusiastically placing his pieces in a way that benefits you. Patience is not passivity, nor is it a sign that you have swallowed your pride. Patience is the best disguise for a predator. Give them a rope, and they will gladly tie their own hands. Let's move on to the third technique. This is where the real psychological architecture begins. Remember one thing: any dialogue, any conflict, any toxic joke directed at you is not just an exchange of words. It is a battle of invisible structures, which in sociology and psychology are called frames. A frame is a framework of reality. It is the context that determines who is in charge, who is justifying themselves, and who is attacking. The one whose frame wins takes all the power. When a person shows you open disrespect, they are doing one very cunning thing. They are forcibly dragging you into the most famous trap of transactional analysis, the so-called Karpen triangle. There are only 3 roles in this psychological model: persecutor, rescuer, and victim. The aggressor who devalues you happily puts on the persecutor's crown. He is the judge, and he throws the victim's rags at your feet. He formulates his attack so that you automatically feel guilty or the need to defend yourself. And this is where 99% of people make a fatal mistake. They accept someone else's frame. As soon as you open your mouth to say, "That's not what I meant. Why are you talking to me like that? That's not true. I did everything right." Bam! A metallic click. The cage door has slammed shut. You have officially accepted the rules of the game. You have agreed to be the victim who reports to the judge. You have lost this game, even if your arguments are flawless. What do communication masters do? They don't fight back. They break the cage itself. This is called cognitive reframing. You never, under any circumstances, argue within someone else's scenario. You change the very plane of conversation. Imagine, you are challenged to a duel with swords. A gauntlet is thrown down. The aggressor expects you to pick up your weapon and take up a stance. Instead, you calmly sit down in a chair, pour yourself a cup of coffee, and ask with sincere bewilderment, "Why did you assume I would fight you?" This is a matrix failure. It's a short circuit in your opponent's brain. Let's look at a real-life example. Suppose you are faced with tactlessness. They say, "You always complicate everything. It's impossible to work with you." If you respond, "I'm not complicating anything. I was just trying to do my best," you are the victim. You are inside their frame. Instead, you use reframing. You shift the focus from your actions to the fact of their insolence. You look them straight in the eye and say in an even, icy tone, __quote, _0, __. Feel the difference? You're not defending yourself. You catch their poisonous arrow right in the air and stab them in the ribs with it. You make them justify their own rudeness. Or another example. Someone says to you, "Oh, come on, it's just a joke. You're too sensitive." Your frame-breaking response, So, publicly devaluing others is your only way to feel more confident in this room? You don't react. You redirect energy. The person who asks questions and sets the context controls the emotional outcome of the situation. Stop fighting in the cages that losers build for you. Step outside the box. Rise above it. The one who sets the rules of the game never loses. The fourth technique targets the most primitive animalistic instincts. While the previous techniques focused on protecting the mind, this tool focuses on physiology. Those who assert themselves at your expense, who consciously show disrespect, are, in essence, banal biochemical addicts. They vitally need your energy. Let's turn to classical science. In the mid-20th century, the brilliant psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered a fundamental law of behavior, which he called operant conditioning. Skinner proved that any behavior that receives positive reinforcement will be repeated over and over again. Imagine a lab rat that presses a lever and gets a piece of sugar. A toxic person who devalues you does the same thing. They press the lever. They throw a dirty word at you, violate your boundaries, and they wait for the sugar. What is the sugar for them? Your reaction, your tears, your screams, your broken voice, your righteous indignation. Your pain is a powerful dopamine shot for their fragile ego. They feel their power, and while you rage, while you try to prove something to them, you give them that sweet prize over and over again. You train them to continue. Now imagine that you have cut off their oxygen supply. In behavioral science, there is a term called negative punishment. It sounds complicated, but it works brilliantly simply. You don't hit back. You just remove the stimulus they so desperately want from their environment. You remove the reinforcement. In our context, this is called the aesthetics of isolation. When someone crosses the line, most people make a scene. They slam doors, write angry messages on 3 screens, demand apologies. This is weakness. It's a cry that you care. A person of power acts differently. They don't make a scene. They just take themselves away. No warnings, no theatrical drama, no final Chinese warnings. You deprive the aggressor of physical and emotional access to yourself. You become as inaccessible as a closed bank account whose password has been lost forever. You cut off their dopamine supply. And do you know what happens to them next? They go through real withdrawal. Your cold, calculated departure hits their psyche 1,000 times harder than any hysterics. You force them to face their most terrifying human fear. The fear of losing control and total isolation. Their brain starts to panic. Why isn't he yelling? Why isn't he trying to argue with me? Am I really that insignificant to him? You are no longer their toy for venting aggression. You are a concrete wall against which they smash their own foreheads. The ability to comfortably maintain distance and not fear loneliness is your impenetrable armor. Leave them alone with their own poison. Believe me, they will choke on it themselves. The fifth tool. The most destructive, most frightening weapon in the arsenal of a person in power. The paradox is that 99% of people are terrified of using it. They mistakenly take it for weakness, for surrender. They think that if they don't respond, they will lose. But in the hands of a strategist, this weapon becomes a mental warhead. It is deliberate, deafening silence. Let's turn to cognitive psychology. Back in the 1920s, Soviet researcher Bluma Zeigarnik discovered a phenomenon that forever changed our understanding of how the human brain works. She was sitting in a noisy Viennese cafe and noticed something strange. The waiters remembered all the complex, unpaid orders down to the smallest detail. But as soon as the customer paid, the waiter forgot the order instantly. Zeigarnik proved that the human brain physically and biologically hates unfinished cycles. Interrupted, unfinished actions are engraved in our memory and nervous system several times more strongly than completed ones. The brain needs a resolution. It needs a period at the end of a sentence. It needs a closed gestalt. Now let's apply this to someone who is trying to humiliate you. When a manipulator, colleague, or toxic relative pours a bucket of mud on you, they are initiating a psychological transaction, and they are waiting for the finale. What exactly are they waiting for? Your scream, your tears, your pathetic attempts to justify yourself. Your hysterics are like a paid bill for him. You gave him a reaction. The cycle is complete. He got his dopamine confirmation of status. His brain checks off, I won. And he goes to bed peacefully. But what happens if you refuse to complete the cycle? The next time someone tries to bully you, I want you to do the following. Don't look away. Look them straight in the eye. And stay silent. Let them wave their arms around. Let them spit. Let their poisonous words just hang in the air. You bring down upon them a heavy, bone-chilling, leaden silence. You look at them with icy indifference. Do you know what this silence does? It leaves their cycle open. You don't give them closure. You don't pay their psychological bill. And that's when the Zeigarnik effect kicks in at full throttle. You create cognitive dissonance of colossal power in their heads. This unclosed gestalt will follow them everywhere. It will leave work with them, sit down to dinner with them, go to bed with them, and drill into their brains at 3 in the morning. They will replay this scene in their heads hundreds of times. Why did he stay silent? What did he mean? Is he preparing a counterattack? Does he think I'm worthless? Did I say something wrong? Your silence will make them doubt their own adequacy. Those who talk too much expose their fears and weaknesses. Those who remain silent demonstrate absolute, unshakable power. Your silence is not a lack of words. This is a verdict on their significance that cannot be appealed. And believe me, it will deal a blow to their psyche that cannot be defended against. Because it is impossible to defend against something that has not been said. We have examined 5 fundamental techniques. You have learned how to break frames, cut off dopamine, and use silence as a mental weapon. But there is one last, highest level of invulnerability. This is the step that separates simply strong people from those who are completely untouchable. There is simply no counterplay against this technique used by manipulators, gossipers, and those who walk all over you. None. This technique is the ability to walk away as if you never needed them. Listen to me very carefully. Most people lose right here. Even after learning all the psychological tricks, they slip up at the very end. Why? Because their ego demands the last word. They want to prove they are right. They crave to see remorse in the eyes of their offender, want them to crawl back and say, yes, I was wrong, you were better. In psychology, this is called the ego validation trap. Your wounded ego screams, make them recognize your worth. But understand one cruel truth. This desperate, painful need for justice is a heavy iron chain around your neck. And as long as you hold on to it, You are firmly tied to people who don't deserve a second of your time. If you need them to admit their guilt, then they still have power over you. They still dictate how you feel about yourself. Remember this historical fact. No one could ever be controlled through something they were willing to lose easily. Those who are free from attachment are free from control. When you decide to cut someone who has played dirty with you out of your life, you don't make loud statements. You don't write them 3-page farewell manifestos in Messenger. You don't post passive-aggressive stories. You don't explain to them how much they hurt you and why you deserve better. You just disappear. With the same cold, calm energy with which a person steps over a puddle of mud on the asphalt without even looking at it. You cut them off. And do you know what makes this step absolutely fatal to their psyche? You take all the power with you. They are left standing in a void, with their fist raised to strike, but there is no one left to hit. You leave them alone with a dialogue in which the second voice has disappeared forever. Your absolute, total absence becomes the most deafening statement in their lives. It tells them only one thing. My inner peace is 1,000 times more valuable than your presence. The version of me that you tried to break has already built a new reality. And in this reality, there is simply no place for you. This is not revenge. Revenge is a game for the weak who have nothing else to do. This is cold, calculated, pure power over your own life. Now, do something right now. If this video has touched something deep inside you, if today, listening to these words, you realized that you have been playing by someone else's rules for too long, putting up with disrespect and feeding someone else's ego, go down to the comments right now and write one sentence. My peace of mind is their sentence. Let this be your personal declaration, your mental contract with yourself. Let this be the moment when you draw a line that no one will ever cross again. And if you haven't done so yet, click like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to turn on the bell. Here, we're not just talking about psychology. We sharpen your mind like a scalpel and teach you to see through people. The world often plays dirty, but now you know how to play smarter. See you soon.